So first off, you made it this far, which is pretty impressive. So I wanted to share something a little bit more personal in this video. So up until now, I've been talking about things that you can kind of begin to apply to your own life that will make your life better. For me, those of you who've watched, probably the thing most people know me for is a TED Talk called Why Aren't We Awesomer? And in the TED Talk, I share a bit of my story, how I was a depressed, suicidal teenager, and I had a sort of an epiphany in the midst of a psychotic break from reality, where I felt as though I was being sucked out of a window. And I sort of managed to get out of there, and I woke up the next morning and I realized, oh, I don't want to kill myself. I don't want to die, because if I'd had, I could have just let myself be sucked out that window. And it was one of those moments that I don't think at the time I knew was significant. It was just like, I've always thought that all those thoughts were real. But it was the moment where I began to recognize that no matter how real a thought looks, it's still just a thought. And thoughts come and they go. And underneath thoughts coming and going is a space of quiet. It's a space of peace. It's a space of meditation. Now, I would love to have seen that then, because it would have saved me about 20 years of seeking. But that's not how it went for me. So I dove into the seeking, and I read every book I could get my hands on about the mind and how the mind worked, and I tried anything that was out there. In fact, I wound up working at a couple of bookshops just to get discounts on the books so I could read even more books about how to improve my life and how to make things better and what else I could try that would help me stay ahead of what I thought was my depressive nature, what I thought was my natural inclination towards morbidity. And it kind of worked. I did stay ahead of the curve. In fact, I became such a high-functioning depressive that I was in demand as a speaker and as a coach, and I traveled the world and I spoke at seminars with thousands of attendees, sharing what I called behavioral Prozac, the things that you could do that would keep you ahead of the black dog of depression, that would keep you out of the anxiety that seemed to me to come with being alive and sane in our world. And then one day, I was watching a video, and it was just a guy talking about the mind. And in this video, he said every human being is sitting in the midst of mental health. They just don't know it. And I realized it was true. And I realized that included me. That no matter how hard I had found life up until that point, no matter how much effort I'd put into being okay, and then maybe a little better than okay, and then maybe a little better than okay, it had never dawned on me that babies don't need therapy. It had never dawned on me that I was born okay. In fact, I was born happy. And that essential nature of happiness, of peace, of well-being, of connected upness to the whole universe, that feeling that you get when you are with a baby, that was my true nature. And that began to change everything without even trying. Because once I saw that at core, I wasn't broken. Nobody's broken. We've just learned some really unhelpful ways of thinking about life that make life seem much harder than it actually is. And what I began to see was that there were principles underlying what I'd seen. That without all the noise of all the things I was trying to do to have a better life, there was a way that life already worked. There was a way that it worked before I got into this game. And there was a way that it will continue to work long after I'm gone. And if you start to understand, well, that just makes life easier. So what's a principle? Well, Think of gravity, right? Gravity is just one of the pre-existing forces that we're born into when we're born here on Earth, right? Gravity doesn't care if we believe in it. We don't need to affirm gravity for it to work. It just is. Electricity, it's a pre-existing power. Nobody can show you electricity, but we know it's there by what it does. And electricity is neutral. It can be used for anything, including lighting up New York City or lighting up an electric chair. Electricity doesn't mind. It's just doing what it does. It is a principle. It is a fundamental force. Magnetism. Nobody really understands magnetism. Even the physicists don't really understand magnetism, but you can see it. There are places you can go on the Earth where the natural magnetism will cause objects to move uphill, seemingly all by themselves. Well, in the same way as there are underlying principles in the physical world, it turns out there are underlying principles in the mental world too. And when you understand those principles and you see how they work, you can begin to work with them. They begin to help you. And when it comes to us human beings, one of the fundamental principles is life itself. We are alive. We're made of this electricity. We're filled with it. We don't need to get that from outside of ourselves. We don't need to find places to plug in. We're a part of this ever-present energy, this animating force that brings not only us to life, but it brings our ideas to life. It brings our thoughts to life in a way that makes them seem so real that we can think that we're experiencing absolute heaven on earth or absolute hell without anything in our circumstances changing at all. Thought itself is a principle. It's the creative principle. It's the magical paintbrush that we use to create our lives. And we create it on the canvas of consciousness, on the canvas of our own nature. In one of the videos, I talked about the sky and clouds. Well, in a way, the sky is like consciousness. It's who we are, not our personalities, but who we would be regardless of where we'd grown up and regardless of what life experience we'd had. The clouds are like the various thoughts and feelings that go through our mind from moment to moment. And sometimes there's a lot of them going on that's like a thought storm. And other times there's just a few kind of Simpsons-like clouds in the sky, like big fluffy cartoon clouds. And of course, the sun is always present in the sky, the source of light, the energy of life. That's always present. Well, those are the principles that we are born into. That is the world we are born into, a world of infinite possibility, a world of continual and effortless change, and a world where the more you see how it actually works, the less work you have to do for things to start working out well. So in the online program, I take you through not only these principles, but I kind of give you the shortcuts that I would have loved to have had 20, 25 years ago if I could have, to show that you can experience all the benefits of meditation without having to engage in a lifelong practice of meditating. Now, if you love meditating, keep meditating. But if you found it hard to keep it up, if you feel like you've lacked the discipline, if you feel like next year I'm going to develop a meditation practice, I can tell you for a fact you can begin to experience the peace of mind, the creativity, the sense of connection with all life without ever getting good at meditating. Maybe you don't really care about meditation. Maybe you just want a better relationship with your spouse, or a better relationship with your kids, or a better relationship with your parents. Well, when you see how much of your experience of the people you love is made up of your own thinking and nothing to do with them, and that thinking starts to quiet down, and you start to experience them as they are directly, heart to heart, soul to soul. Your relationships will take on an ease and a depth that most people think it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It only happens when you're first together, when you're in love. And then you just have to learn to deal with it or put up with each other. That doesn't have to be the way it is. In fact, for thousands of people who've learned about the path of effortless change, the principles behind the human experience, that isn't how it is. In fact, that experience of love and connection gets simpler and deeper day by day, so that the longer you're together, the more deeply connected you are. Maybe what drew you to this was the habit thing. Maybe you've got some habits that you think, oh, I've got to get over this. Maybe it's not as far down the line as an addiction, but maybe it is. And what you'll start to see as you see more of this for yourself is that what you're looking for is already inside you. And what you think you need your habit for, to cope with, to do better with, it'll fall away as you relax more into the well-being that's your nature, the happiness that you were born with, the space of meditation that is natural to us. Maybe you, like me, struggled with anxiety or depression. And by the way, if you've never thought about it, actually anxiety and depression are the same thing. Depression actually is the safety switch for anxiety. So sort of like, this might seem like an odd analogy if you're feeling kind of depressed or anxious right now, but stay with me. If you've ever been in a hotel and you've used the hairdryer and it overheats and switches off until it cools down enough that it won't burn out, well, that's depression. Depression is actually your innate health protecting you from the over-revving of your thinking that you experience as anxiety. And if you are able to just be with it, if you see it for what it is, if you put the hairdryer down for a bit, it goes back to working perfectly without your having to do anything to fix it. Maybe what you're interested in is success. You want to be more successful and you think you've got psychological blocks to success and you need to change those psychological blocks so you can be more successful. You need to be more disciplined. You need to be more motivated. You need to be more like somebody else than like you. Well, I can tell you, as somebody who's worked as a success coach for over 25 years, the people who are really successful, and I mean happily successful, not the people who've almost killed themselves to get somewhere, they're more themselves than any of us who strive to be successful. They're more willing to just show up and be human than those of us who think we need to be superhuman to have a super life. And it actually turns out, like all of this stuff, to be natural. The creative potential is already in you. The creative force already wants to, and at times is able to, work through you. When you actually go with what you really want, and not what you think you should want, or not what you think you can get away with, or not what you think you have to want, you'll find you tap into an energy that is way beyond what most of us are able to tap into when we think we have to do it as an act of will, when we think we have to make ourselves succeed. I've been a coach, I mentioned, for over 25 years, and the number one reason people initially come to me and want to hire me is to get them to do what they don't want to do. That's crazy. Why would you do what you don't want to do? What if there was a way of getting what you actually want by doing what you actually want to do? By tuning into this deeper mind that we all have access to. By tuning into a deeper guidance that we all have access to. What if life could be as simple as showing up with a quiet mind and a beautiful feeling and following your guidance day by day, step by step? What if it turned out that was enough? Not only was that enough, that's the shortcut. That's the fastest way to the life of your dreams. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about during this course. And I'm going to be your guide. I've been guiding people along this path for the past 10 years now. And it has not yet ceased to amaze me how quickly change can happen when you stop trying so hard to make it happen. How much more ease is available to you, how much more grace you can bring to the difficult times, and how much more fun you can have across the board. When Hay House asked me if I would put together an online course teaching the things that I've been teaching my private clients over the last 25 years, I was excited about doing it, but I had one request, and it was that I wanted to record it in front of a live audience. And the reason was that when you see real people going through the types of experience that I describe in the program, having the insights that we talk about, having the visible changes that otherwise might just sound like stories, they might sound remote to you, when you see that it can happen to anyone, you start to realize that it can happen to you. And so over the course of the program, you're not only going to hear me present various ideas, you're going to get to do little experiments and try exercises, not that are designed to change you, but that are designed to facilitate your insights so that you can begin to change from the inside out. I hope you'll join me. And if you do, I can promise you that I will be there with you. I will hold your hand, I will take you on this path, and we will walk together. And what you're going to find isn't so much a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You're going to find that the path itself is made of gold, that the journey itself is so full of rewards that you're not ever going to want to get to the end of it. Over the years, I've tried a number of different ways of sharing this material with people. I do it one-on-one in coaching sessions. I go into companies and I share it. People come to me. I do large public seminars. I do small public seminars. I travel around. I give talks. And in the last 5 to 10 years, we've begun to play with sharing it through online programs. And what I've seen is that it's remarkable how much people can get when they're able to take the program at their own pace, when they're able to go back and re-watch or re-listen, when they're able to maybe go all the way through one time and then go back and do the exercises, when they revisit it. So maybe they've gone through the program and they experience the changes, and then a year later it occurs to them, oh, I could do with a sort of another dose. And they go back through and they see all these things that they think, oh, have you updated the program? I'm sure that bit wasn't there the first time I watched it. And so learning this through an online program is not just incredibly user-friendly, it's also one of the best ways of being able to go deeper and deeper each time you watch it. I hope you'll join me, and I look forward to hearing your experiences along the way. Have fun, learn heaps, and I'll talk to you soon.